Can you talk about the evolution and growth of political parties and what functions they do serve?
Sure. I think beginning in the early 1800s, political parties really came into their own, largely because transportation and communication developments, telegraph, railroad precursors, they began to knit the country together much more tightly. So you had the possibility of having national organizations that didn't have to operate with one person traveling around the whole country, but could operate through intermediaries. And so, for example, you could know what a party stood for even if you never heard its standard bearer speak, if you knew what the local party operatives were like. And so this knitting of the country moved parties into a more powerful position. The 12th Amendment helped parties along because before the 12th Amendment there was a built-in possibility, indeed almost tendency, for a president and a vice president to become of different parties. But after the 12th Amendment, it became much easier for a single party that had majority support throughout the country to elect a president and a vice president. And so the national parties began to, as I said earlier, knit all three branches together and knit local, state, and national organizations seamlessly.
What part do political parties play today, and what problems are associated with this?
So I think parties do a lot of healthy things. They allow individuals to participate. They are great vehicles for dissemination and debate of ideas. And they really are, I think, essential to the way American democracy works today. On the other hand, they can entrench. Look at the committee structure in Congress. If you're not part of one of the major parties, it's hard to have any position of power and have influence. Parties run the fundraising elements of elections, which again can be a good thing, but in a world where people worry about the power of private money in democracy, parties are part to blame for that. Parties are often responsible for the gerrymandering that we see in districts, where district lines are drawn to protect incumbents or protect the party that's in power at the moment. So I think it's a mixed bag, and today we see bitter division between the parties, and we see very few people who straddle the two parties, very few people whose votes toggle back and forth between the two party lines. And that's largely responsible for the inability to get things done at the state and federal levels in modern America.
Well, as we tape this in February of 2016, Michael Bloomberg is discussing that maybe he will run as a third-party candidate because he might be one of those people in the middle. But can you talk about the obstacles that have prevented third-party candidates or multiple parties from emerging?
Well, in the legislative arena, it's hard for third parties to exist because we elect legislators on a district-by-district basis where one person wins each district based on receiving the most votes. In systems where third parties are more powerful, the legislature is allocated proportional to each party's strength. So if a party has 20% of the vote, it gets 20% of the seats, even if it didn't win any one district. The election is done at large rather than on a district-by-district basis. So that's one big problem, is the history we have in the United States of electing legislators on a district basis. That's a problem if you like third parties. I'm not saying they're a good thing. At the presidential level, the two major parties automatically get their candidate on the ballot. But you mentioned Michael Bloomberg. He has to raise money to get signatures to appear on all the ballots. And how many people can do that? Well, a billionaire can do that. But obviously, you don't want third parties reserved only for billionaires. And that brings me to the third point, and that is the major way that money is generated through politics today is through parties. So if you're a third party without a track record, how are you going to get up and going unless you have billionaires backing you?